was about one of your first times prospecting, and it was, have you ever, if you're in sales, have you ever been knocking on doors, and there was a sign that said, no solicitors, right? No solicitors. I always feel like I'm going to go in that door and go to the next one, and it says, I told you, no solicitor, right? But you know, it's scary to hear that. But you were a young, up-and-coming salesperson, and you saw this sign, and you walked in, and you felt like you were going to be attacked by who?
Sharon, the wolf.
The wolf. So tell us what happened. I want to go through this story with you.
Well, I was in the Atlanta, Georgia market, and at that time, I was in outside sales with an industrial uniform company. And I was doing cold calls, canvassing an area in an industrial park, and walked into this place, and on the front door, it had a great big sign saying no soliciting. Not the small ones that are polite and say no soliciting. We're talking about no soliciting. And then I walked in the door, and there's another one that says, we shoot every third salesman, and the second one just left. And then I looked, and there sat a lady at the front desk, and she had a sign in front of her that says, 98% angel, 2% something else. Be careful, you never know what you're going to get. And I looked at her, I looked down at the signs, I looked at her again, and I swear in my mind, it's like immediately her snout began to grow, her ears got pointed, and fire came out of her nose. And it scared me like you would not believe.
And that is scary.
And so I said, ma'am, it is. Absolutely. And I've always been a little bit of an improvisationalist, I guess. And I looked at her and I looked at the sign again and I smiled, and I was about 25 or 26 years old at the time. And I said, ma'am, I am very green and very new in sales. And I said, obviously, you guys don't want salespeople calling on your company. I've made that really clear here. I said, what would I need to do? I'm reasonably sure that your company or your company owner is going to want to know what I do. What would be the right way for me to approach you right now? And she looked at me and she softened up. She got a little smile on her face and she said, well, young man, and quite frankly, I was young back then. She said, you need to understand you're kind of barging in, and you need to acknowledge that, and you need to kind of expect to come back at a better time. So I looked at her and I put my finger up and I said, okay, wait right there. I turned around, I walked out of the door, turned back around, smiled, and came right back in. And I said, hi, ma'am, my name's Jeff West, and I'm with Rental Uniform Service. Look, I know I'm barging in right now, and I don't want to allow for that. I said, but I'd like to schedule a time to come back maybe and see the owner at their convenience. Would that be okay? And she said, sure. And she helped me meet the owner that day.
That is a beautiful, beautiful story. And let's talk about some of what we did in terms of influence right there. Because remember, when we talk about influence on a very basic level, it's moving a person to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. You wanted her to be more accepting of your coming in, even though it was a no solicitors, and you wanted her to introduce you to the owner of the company. So the first thing you needed to do was control your own emotions, because again, that is scary going into, so especially a young salesperson. You see that no soliciting sign, you think they're going to bite your head off. And again, she looked like a wolf to you. I mean, she took that shape because it's human, you know, and so you controlled your own emotions, and you put yourself in her shoes. You knew she couldn't be happy about you doing this. Okay. So now the next thing you did is you kind of reset the frame, didn't you? You moved from, you know, I'm barging in, I'm doing something you don't like, and I know I'm doing it. Well, yeah, but then you kind of you shifted it to, you know, how could I do this in a way? How do we do this in a way that you're okay with it? Now, Jeff Shore, who you know, you were just on Jeff's podcast. Jeff Shore is one of my favorite people. By the way, I don't know if I'm on video or not, because mine is totally frozen up. Can someone let me know if you can see me or not? Because I'm holding up Jeff Shore's book right now. Okay, and so I don't know if you can see me or not. But anyway, I'm holding up Jeff's book. It's called Handling Sales Objections: 8 Reality-Based Techniques for Tackling Tough Objections. And one of the things Jeff talks about is just what you're talking about, Jeff West, and that is what he calls transfer of ownership. In other words, what he's going to do is he's going to allow the customer to come up with the solution. He says if the customer comes up with his own solution, how much stronger do you think that solution will be in the customer's mind? And that's what you did. Now you did it intuitively. You were a young salesperson. You improvised. You became one of the leading salespeople in the country, and you developed a huge sales team. You now teach these things. Jeff Shore does the same thing. He was a great salesperson. He's now, then he became a sales manager, and now he speaks all over for great. And this is something that you and Jeff, two of the salespeople I respect most in the world, both talk about. Transferring ownership. Don't try, if you want to influence, don't try and push your will upon others. They will resist. Use gentle pull. Attract them to you by transferring the issue to them and letting them come up with the solution. Now, again, then you did it with tact and empathy, and you let go of having to be right in that you were going to accept her decision, whatever she said, and she knew that. Go ahead.
That same process works in the actual sales conversations. I call them value conversations rather than sales presentations. But if you ask the right questions and you're really trying to find out what the needs are of the person you're talking to, if you ask the right questions, they will tell you what they need to hear. If you say it, it's suspect because you're the salesperson. But if you ask great questions, they'll say it, and if they say it, it's the gospel truth.
Right, of course, and that's why discovery is just the most important thing. I'm sure when you went into an office of someone when you were selling the Aflac product, not every one of them was going to have the same desire. Now they wanted their people to be covered, but they may not have the same reasons for doing so. They may not have the same look at why this would be right. So you ask questions, you find out. It's the only way we can discover what that prospective customer needs, wants, and desires. We have to ask, and then we listen. Now,
absolutely.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, in that context.